So, the day of our deaths began with my arrival into town after being gone for months, training with my mentor. And sort of the first big moment of the day was just our small reunion with each other.
Yeah. It was not strained, I think, but at the same time, it was definitely... My character was not okay with the fact that he had not had his wingman there, his partner there for a while, so he felt like it was good to be back, I think.
Mm-hmm. It was also it also had a lot of weight with it too, because it was our first time in character for the day. And the day that we know, like, oh, we know how this is going. Mm-hmm. This is gonna suck, because I personally, and you probably did too, the emotional hit of that was just like, oh, this is gonna be tough, because we knew what it was, but yeah, so it's tough.
Yeah, playing it over in your head is completely different than having to actually do it on the day. Afterwards, after a lot of town people, were just going about their business, questing and stuff. I think the next big example was that you showed up as your second identity.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I showed up in sort of like this hero fighting some goblins, which was a way to introduce kind of like, ooh, there's a mysterious person in the woods, but also to set up the big reveal at the end. So we kept it really hidden and tried to have my outfit just hide who I was, so that way the reveal at the end was bigger.
Yeah, for me, I came in on like the tail end of everybody running to come see this new person running off from an attack of goblins, and so being half blind, I could barely see anything during the day, but I could definitely tell people were very excited about this new mysterious individual who was coming into town, who was saving them from an attack. So that was exciting.
Mm-hmm. We also did quests, I think, throughout the day, or at least I did, and those really helped to serve to flesh out, for some individuals, not everybody partook in it, that my character was on sort of this redemptive path. I think even a person came up to me for this quest and was like, hey, one thief to another, can you do me a favor? And I was like, oh, absolutely. Just to sort of drive home that change, I think that was important for later in the day.
Yeah, actually it's funny, because while he was doing quests, I saw him talking to other people, and I was confused. I thought, as my character, I assumed that Wes and Vilius would start planning a new heist. We would start drinking. We would start making up some kind of a plan to screw over somebody.
Back to old times.
Back to old times, exactly. And so, not seeing that kind of encouraged me as a character to get upset with him, which kind of brought along the next event that happened, notable event that happened during the day.
So there had been conflict between us, and the tension that we tried to make visual so that people looking on would kind of notice, like, oh, they're having a fight of some sort.
Thankfully, other people also kind of were whispering in the backgrounds to the players that something's not quite right with these two.
Yeah, and we really met at a head in sort of a big argument towards the middle of the day. Which was a lot of emotion from Vilius, that was more just anger and frustration.
Yeah.
Which manifested in a physical outburst.
I punched him in the face.
He punched me in the face.
Let's be honest. And so it ended in that, and that very much cemented our relationship as having broken ties, and that was really, I think, a good thing to add. I was really hoping that we would be able to have time for that during the day. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to think what happened after that.
Yeah, well, the rest of the day, it was difficult playing the character that has been so intertwined with yours.
Yes.
Because after that point of the sever between our friendship bond, you have to kind of play sort of a new character. Mm-hmm. So it was difficult, and we would walk by each other in the day and just like, oh, I hate you, I'm gonna beat you up. Yeah. Which was not fun to play, because I love you.
Yeah, it was really funny, because at times it was kind of difficult, because I wasn't sure how far to take it. Obviously, I didn't want to take it to another physical altercation, but it was nice to know that I had someone I trusted next to me to play that out, because I knew at the end of the day we would be fine.
Absolutely. And then I think the next big event was was something with Vilius.
Yeah.
If you'd explain that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I had my bad ways had finally caught up to me, and I was being put on trial for some past transgressions that I had done, and so the ultimate what was told for the punishment was that I would be thrown out of town. And I didn't take that well, and so that kind of cemented my turn to more of a darker character.
Right. And in the middle of this whole trial, I knew that this would happen, and I was thinking in days prior to this how I was going to respond, what I would say in the middle of it. And I came to the conclusion that during the day, really, I changed what I was going to do, and I just stayed silent, because at that point the characters had just drifted, and all the things you were accused of, you did, and maybe you did deserve to be punished for it.
Yeah, it's like you were aware of what I was, and yet at that point our connection, our relationship didn't matter anymore.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think the connection was still there, and the
Sure.
relationship was still important, but it was different.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so actually, that kind of actually was the last time we were together until the final battle.
Right. Yeah. So before the final battle, the main people went off to do quests, and I, as this folk hero, kind of saved a group. And you were off doing some nefarious deeds,
Absolutely.
Raising up an army. And it really comes to a front. It came to a front when the town had kind of lost hope, and lost hope because all their allies had been taken out brutally. And that's where it was important for my character to come out, still masked, still disguised, and kind of rouse the spirits of the town, which contrasted for me when I first started playing the character, and they were like, "We need help in this final battle," and I said no. To the point where I was giving this speech that was all right.
I didn't hear it. I was actually probably a little too far away to really hear it.
Yeah. And then the final battle started, and that's when it really, really intensified.
Yes.
Especially the emotional aspect of it.
Absolutely. So this group of individual armies that we had culminated over kind of the past year had come back kind of in a final assault, and I had brought them all together against the town. And so we faced off, and me and his folklore hero were going head to head. And eventually we got into an altercation where I was able to subdue him and unmask him.
Yeah.
I was told by one of my compatriots to kill him. And having seen who he was, I wasn't prepared to do that. I questioned it. I knew that was what I wanted to do because I needed to do my own steps in life. I couldn't rely on this relationship because I thought he had left me, but he was still a friend to me. The underlying relationship was still there.
Right. And at the second of the unmasking, almost all of my job for the day was done, and what I had left to do was really sell the emotional aspect of it. And as soon as the mask was pulled off, I just looked straight at Vilius and really established and I think it helped to reestablish our friendship and remind everybody that we had this bond that now is in this weird place. Yeah. But obviously, as my friend, he did not kill me.
No, and because I didn't, my compatriot in this evil army that I had massed decides to do the job for me, and just drives a knife right into him. And this put into effect this second half of the battle where I fought against my compatriots, and then I killed the person who had stabbed Wes. And due to my own wounds during the battle, I succumbed to them crawling back to Wes.
Yeah. And it's at this point that I'm choking my final words, and final words were something I'd been contemplating. I wanted to give this big speech on my deathbed, but I decided against that because I figured that what I'd done with the speech earlier was good enough for that, and what I really needed to do was wrap up what the character was saying. So I just turned to him as my last words and said, "I'm sorry," and then died.
It was it was emotional. I don't think I was prepared. I didn't really plan any words ahead. I was nursing my wounds, but I knew I was going to succumb, and the people who planned the LARP allowed other players to know that kind of in their own in-character ways. And I just felt this utter guilt, in character and out of character almost, just because everybody looked at me with such disgust. And I think that was the important thing, because our characters were destined to live life together, but I think they were destined to die together.
Absolutely.
And to have that kind of duality, that yin and yang, was what was almost, it was a very natural progression for our characters.
Sure.
And I feel like that might be one of the most interesting things that came about it, from especially the day, but also just through the journey.
Yeah, and after that point, everybody witnessing these two characters die, it was emotional, but we just had to lay dead and we couldn't react at all. And then once they left, we kind of had our final little moment before heading in for the day.
Yeah.
So that was pretty much the whole day of the LARP.
Yeah.
Very, very emotional.
It was. So as far as the difference between the LARPs that we've had in the past, I think we've had people in peril before, but the fact that we've kind of grown with these characters over time, especially because we already have reputations as being kind of not the greatest people in town.
People grumble when they hear our names.
They don't like us, let's be honest. So it was seeing the redemption arc that Andrew had set up, or the fact that I was becoming more of a villain in this aspect. I think that kind of added to the emotional toll as well as the stakes, and hopefully will let the players have something to take away with them to think about more.
I also think that we were really fortunate to have kind of the backing of all the runners of the LARP and all the organizers, that we were able to really put this emotional arc and these deaths, kind of like the big climax of it, which delivered an emotional punch, which definitely sets things apart. But you also are sent on this journey between these two characters, and kind of watching that from a distance and seeing that unfold really can just shake up a LARP.
I definitely think that it would have not been as impactful if we didn't already have a storyline set up for the ultimatum and the end of it to be our deaths.
Absolutely. Good writing. Overall, I think that this whole experience, the whole planning the death, executing it, and the aftermath of it, I think it was a good call.
Yeah.
It was not easy. It was way, way harder. Emotionally, this is the toll it takes on you, way harder. But also, just the execution of it, and really making sure that it goes well.
Yeah, most certainly. It is really difficult to pull off a LARP, but it's also really difficult to pull off a LARP when you have this idea for a death, and you have to convey that to the LARP organizers. They worked with us so much. You have no idea. They were really great with us. Ben and Abby were amazing to work with. And they have always been amazing to work with. But but honestly, it's a really emotional situation, like Andrew said, and I definitely would do it again if the right character came up. I wouldn't want to just jump into it without putting serious consideration into it. It's definitely, this character was someone that I went through a lot personally with, and I'm glad that it ended the way it did.
I'll say this, I don't want to die again. I think it was good for the character. And yeah, I guess if a good character comes along, but I definitely don't want it to be in the same way. I think if you're going to do multiple character deaths, which people might think would get old, if I die again, I'm dying in an explosion, and they'll have to figure out that logistics. But I think that it's a very rewarding feeling when you accomplish it. But it's not easy, so take that to your grave.
Yeah.
Your grave, because we're killing.
Yeah,
characters.
we are dead.
Wow.
Wow.